Welcome to this guide on how to set up a Pyrk masternode. For more information about Pyrk, you can go to their website at pyrk.org. What is Pyrk? It's a cryptocurrency based on Bitcoin with additional features imported from both Dash and Digibyte. And among those features imported from Dash is the deterministic masternode. This is a program that runs on a server as a secondary layer to the blockchain. And what it does is it helps to enable private transactions, speed up transactions, it helps to secure the network. And in the case of Pyrk, it also helps to enable creation of tokens and some additional features, including a private messaging application, which is currently in beta. This video seeks to show how to set up the masternode, which really is going to start in two steps. The first step would be preparing a full node desktop wallet that would run on your local computer. And then the other part would be to set up the masternode itself, which would run either on VPS, a virtual private server, or your own hardware. And in this case, what we're going to be doing is renting a VPS from one of the popular sites, and then you can go ahead and install the software there. We'll be using Linux for that. There are some commands that you'll be running from the command line, but this video seeks to help simplify all of those commands to make it a little easier for anybody to set up a masternode. So before we can get started, you should know that if you would like to get enough Pyrk to create a masternode, you're going to need 2,500 Pyrk for collateral. All right, and you can get that at these exchanges, Crex24, Finexbox, and Hotbit. And then once the trade has been made, you're going to need a place to store it, and that's of course going to be the full node desktop wallet. All right, so the desktop wallet's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. The process for setting up a masternode is the same no matter which operating system you're using. I will be using Windows. But once you have the wallet installed, it'll function exactly the same. So download the 64-bit version, or at least whichever version matches up with your operating system. Save the file, and then run that file. Install the software. This will take some time because it's going to synchronize the blockchain. So you're going to need to leave about an hour or so, depending on your connection speed, and that will should pretty much synchronize your blockchain. Do not use the wallet until you have completely synchronized the blockchain. Step one is to configure your wallet and get it set up so that it's ready to control a masternode. The first thing you have to verify is that the blockchain is fully synced. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a check mark here, and hovering that check mark will let you know that you're processed up to the current block height, which is good. And the other thing to do is to enable the tabs that you see across the top, especially the masternode tab. So let's go ahead and get that going. You go over here to settings, click on options, and then click wallet. And make sure that all of these are checked. All these little boxes, make sure they're all checked. And then click on OK. Once you've done that, you'll have to close your wallet and reopen it. All right, give that a couple minutes to reopen and sync back up. And when you do reopen it, you'll notice that you have the masternode tab available. This is important because we'll want to be able to verify that our masternode is there. If you go here otherwise, what you'll see are the number of masternodes. We have got 1109 masternodes. And you can go through the whole list and see if they're enabled. You may come across some that are pose banned, which means they're not synchronized or they're offline. That's something that you can use as a way of monitoring it yourself, which is important. You want to make sure that your node is online, because if it's not, it will not earn any rewards. One of the first steps that we need to do is get some Pyrk into the wallet, of course. So go to your exchange of choice that's available for Pyrk, make your trade, and then you'll need to send that Pyrk into the wallet. To determine your address, you could do a number of things. You could go to the Receive tab here. You could create a label for it and all that. What I would recommend rather is click the File tab here and then click on Receiving Addresses. This will show you your Pyrk address. So you can right-click this, copy the address, and then paste that into the Exchange as your receiving address. And then the Exchange will send the Pyrk to your address. I've already got a little over 2,500 Pyrk available now. I recommend getting a few more Pyrk than you actually need for the Masternode because you will need to account for some fees that will be charged. So once we have that in the wallet, we're going to go back to File and Receiving Addresses because we need to set up several addresses that will be used to coordinate this communication with the Masternode. So to create a new address is really easy. Just click this New button here. And the first one we're going to create is our collateral address for the Masternode. So I'll just call it collateral for Masternode 1. All right, because who knows? Maybe if you want to make Masternode 2 and 3 and 4, you can also control all the Masternodes from one wallet here. All right, so there's the label. Click on OK. And what this will do is actually generate a new address for that. So this address you can see is different from the one above it. That is our collateral address. All right. We're going to create a couple more addresses here. So click on New again. And the next one is going to be our owner or key address. This will make more sense when we go to connect it to the Masternode, but for right now, just call it owner, and we'll call it for Masternode 1. Click OK. Creates another address for us. We're going to do the same thing for a voting address, all right? Because one of the perks of having a Masternode is the ability to vote for different governance issues and questions that may arise regarding the direction of the project or certain community questions. So we'll put voting for Masternode 1 there. Okay. And we're also going to need a payout address. This will be the address that you receive your rewards on. So we'll go ahead and put payout for Masternode 1 there. And lastly, we're going to make one called our fee address. Now, the fee address could actually be whatever you want it to be. So, for instance, if I wanted to leave this top address here as my fee address, that's fine. The idea here with the fee address is if you ever need to send a transaction, for instance, to create a handshake between the wallet and the Masternode, it's going to cost a small transaction fee to do that. You're going to want to make sure that your fee address has a little bit of Pyrk in it. All right, so this is important. I'm just going to name this one fee. That fee address could be used for all Masternodes that you control. So if you're going to set up more than one Masternode, that's fine to use the same fee address. Just make sure there's always some Pyrk in this address. Click on OK. And that should do it. We have everything that we need in terms of addresses for setting up our first Masternode. Now what I'm going to do is right-click our collateral address here and copy that address. And then we're going to go ahead and send the exact amount of collateral that's needed to stake for that particular Masternode. So I'm going to go to the Send tab. And then now that we've enabled the coin control features, I can click on Inputs here. And you want to make sure that this is not gray. All right, because if it's locked, then you will not be able to send that coin. So since it's not gray, we're okay. All right, it's always good to verify this before you go ahead and send. All right, we're not going to set a custom change address, although it probably would behoove us to do that right now so that the change automatically goes to our fee address. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Go to my receiving address. I'm going to copy this address here and drop it in where it says custom change address. We'll put a little check mark there. Paste my address there. Good. All right. And then we're going to go back over here to receiving address. I got the collateral right here. Copy this, copy address, and I'm going to paste that there. All right, and it picks up the correct label that we entered earlier, so it knows that this is one of our addresses. And then for the amount, we're going to put in exactly 2,500 Pyrk. Make sure this is not ticked. Subtract fee from amount. You don't want that. You want to make sure that this amount right here is exact, and then click send. This will verify that you are sending exactly 2,500 Pyrk to this address. If that is all good, then go ahead and click on yes. All right, we've got verification here that the transaction was sent. Now, this is very important that you monitor this, and we'll continue to do this throughout the setup process, but in the Transactions tab, you're going to see here, we've got a payment to ourself, all right? And if I hover over the little question mark there, it tells me it's unconfirmed payment to yourself. Now, over time, as each block is created, there will be confirmations of this transaction adding up, okay? And you can check back on this to make sure that you have enough confirmations before you start up your Masternode. The minimum number of confirmations needed is 15. This is why I'm sending the collateral now, because we can start working on other aspects of, getting our VPS ready and things. So this is going to be confirming in the background, and hopefully by the time we're set up with our Masternode, we'll be ready to go ahead and use this address as the confirmation. Notice now I have a little clock there, and it tells me that it's in the process of confirming one of 6 recommended confirmations. If you want to look at a little more detail, you can right-click it and go Show Transaction Details, and this will show you some other important information. And in fact, we're going to be using this right here, the transaction ID, as part of our setup. We'll come back to this, but do keep in mind that that is definitely something we'll be looking for. In the meantime, let's just take a look and see where our change went. If I go back to receiving addresses here, I got a fee address here. Remember, we set this as our custom change address, so all the change should always go back into the fee address here. If I want to verify that, I can copy this address, and then in the web browser, I can go to explorer.pyrk.org, and then I can just drop that address here and verify what's on it. And I can see right here, it says it's a valid address. We've got 4.99999 Pyrk that has entered into it. See? It came out of my first address, and the 2,500 went to my collateral address here. And then here, since I sent this as my custom fee address, that's where the remainder went. This is the way blockchain works. It takes whatever value is in this one address, and it sends it to a new address, and whatever is remaining, it will send to another new address. If I did not input this one as my custom fee address, then it would have just generated a random address using my private key. And the process would just go on and on and on and on and on, unless, of course, I want to be in control of that address. So this is important because we're going to need this fee address to have some Pyrk in it. Otherwise, we will not be able to verify and create a handshake with our Masternode. Step 2 of this process will involve creating our VPS, which we'll be renting. And the process, if you have your own hardware, is the same. Installation of the software is identical. You'll just have to prepare yourself an Ubuntu server, okay? And I'll be showing you exactly which version of the software and all that in just a moment. But for right now, we're going to use the Pyrk website as a bit of a guide for us. There are different instructions that we'll be pulling from here, but we're also going to be using a help script, which was made by DK808. And this script is going to make it a little easier for us to install the Masternode. So it's not very complicated. If you're not familiar with Linux, don't worry about it too much. This is something that just about anybody can do. And as long as you follow the steps in this video, you should be fine. The other program that you may need if you don't have a Linux machine is PuTTY. PuTTY is a great little terminal program that allows you to log into a virtual server remotely or even locally. You can just do it via IP. So I recommend just grabbing the portable version here, which is putty.exe. Click this, download it, and then as soon as you run the program, it'll just pop up the terminal. In fact, I can do that right here. So there's the terminal program. So we'll look at that in just a moment. But before we do, I want to go over here to the help section on the Pyrk website, and we're going to go to DIP 003 Masternode Setup. All right, and this is going to give us some of the details that we need and the steps really for getting things up and running. The first thing is, of course, to set up. Scroll this up a little bit. Number one, set up your server and operating system, and then we'll install the Pyrk software and synchronize the blockchain. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with option one here. And there are a couple of different sites that I'm going to recommend. First of all would be Volter.com. And this is a great website. They provide excellent service. They have multiple locations, which is why I like them. So you can see these locations here, all different places where you can rent your server. So no matter where you are in the world, you're bound to find something reasonably close by. If you want something that's I would say comparable in price, you could take a look at Contabo. All right. Now they're a German company. They're a little more limited in terms of locations. You basically have a choice of Frankfurt or St. Louis in the United States. So those are the only two areas that they have currently, but they do provide excellent service and reasonably priced VPS systems. I think you'll find that they're about comparable for what we're going to be doing. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, we'll be looking at Volter. I find this to be, a simple setup and should get us up and running in a reasonable amount of time. So for this, once you create your account here, you go to Cloud Compute and then choose the location you want your server to be in. I'm just going to stick with Atlanta. That's fine. And now we're going to choose our server type. So make sure you have 64-bit OS. Click on Ubuntu, and we're going to choose the 1804. This is a long-term support release. I know it's not the most recent release. Nevertheless, it is a very stable release, and many developers are utilizing 18.04. And for server size, we're going to go ahead and choose this $10 a month option. All right, this will give us the right amount of resources to do the work that we need for a Masternode. Okay, first of all, space. Right, 55 gigabytes is good. That gives you room to grow. One CPU is good. 2 gigabytes of memory is also good, and perhaps even more important is the bandwidth. Lots of bandwidth here. So this will allow for lots of communication to take place on this particular Masternode. All right, so once we have that set, we're good. You can go ahead and enable IPv6. We won't be setting that up in this video, but it's good to have it as an option, okay, in the future. The next thing would be really just to go ahead and set up a host name and a label. You don't have to put a host name unless you really want to. You certainly can, but I think we'll just stick with a server label, and I'll just go ahead and call it Pyrk. You see I already have one here, Masternode. We'll call it Masternode 01. Okay. And that's it. Really, once you have that done, go ahead and click on Deploy Now. Once the software has been installed on your VPS, then you can click it and get this screen. This is where we'll get the IP address for the node and our username and password. So let's go ahead and set this up so that we can connect to it for the first time. We're going to click on the copy address button here, and then I'm going to open up Putty and make sure I right click and paste that IP address here. Where it says saved sessions, I can go ahead and put that in as my Pyrk Masternode 01 and save it. This will give me a list of masternodes that I can easily get to if I wanted, okay? Now that that's ready to go, I can just go ahead and click on Open, and it'll give me a little question. Do you want to open this? Are you sure that you want to open this? And since I put in all the information, I'm going to say yes. All right. So now we have a login prompt, and what we're going to log in as is root. And the information is right here. The username is root. and the password is here. So I'm just going to copy the password by clicking the little button here. I'll type in my login as root, hit enter, and then I'll right-click anywhere on the black of this screen to paste my password, and then hit enter. All right, and now that I'm logged in, one of the most important things to do would be to update and upgrade your software. Okay, it says right here, 37 packages can be updated. 18 of these are security updates. Okay, so you want to make sure you have everything up to date before you start installing anything. So to do that right now, what we're going to do is type in the command apt space update space and then ampersand ampersand space apt space upgrade space -y. All right, and this is going to run 2 commands back to back that will update your operating system. So just give this a few minutes to run. Okay, once the upgrade is done, the next thing to do would be to create a new user. So we're going to type in add user space Pyrk. Now you can name your user whatever you want. I'm just going to call him Pyrk. Hit enter. Come up with a strong password here. Re-enter it. If they match, you're good. You can go ahead and enter through all of that, and that puts us back at a prompt. Now what we're going to do is add that user to the sudo group, and that will enable that user to run certain commands as root, but it would require a password every time, which is very important. So we're going to do add user Pyrk sudo space enter. All right, and it says right there, adding user Pyrk to group sudo. Okay, now all we have to do is change into that user. So we're going to do that by typing su space dash Pyrk. And now we are running as Pyrk. You can see the name change right there in the bottom left. All right, so let me go ahead and clear this screen. Now we're ready to install software. Step 2, install the Pyrk software and synchronize the blockchain. We're going to have some help from DK808 here. So the command that we'll need is right in the middle of the page there. So go ahead and select that command, right-click, copy, jump back over here and right-click, and then hit enter. Right off the bat, it's asking for our sudo password so that it can do some root functions. That's okay. So make sure to type in your password that you created for Pyrk. It says that we're using port 22 for our SSH. That's true, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Looking for our IP address. That looks right. If it is, click yes. It's asking if we want to create a swap file. This is actually a good practice in Linux, so I would recommend doing this, especially for this particular VPS. We only have 2 gigabytes of RAM, and if we ever run into a situation where a little extra RAM space is needed, it would then just use the SSD for that. So go ahead and say yes. It's creating a 4 gigabyte swap file. And now it's just verifying that everything is up to date, which it is. Downloading the software that's needed for Pyrk. Now we have to get our Masternode BLS secret key. For this, we're going to have to go back to our guide. So let's go ahead and do that. And scrolling down a little bit here, it will explain how to generate a BLS key pair. All right. So this is really simple to do. We just type in the command BLS generate in our wallet in the console. All right. So let me go ahead and minimize these for just a minute. Pull up the Pyrk wallet. Go to Tools, go to Debug Console, and then from here, we're just going to go ahead and paste BLS generate. Hit enter, and now we have 2 different strings of numbers. The first one is the secret one, the second one is the public one. All right. The BLS key that the Masternode is asking for is the secret one. All right. So copy just the number here. And let me go ahead and close that down, and then we'll open up PuTTY. right-click the screen anywhere here, and that will paste the secret key, all right, and hit enter. And then what that does is it adds it to the configuration file. The next question here is to bootstrap the chain. I highly recommend yes, bootstrap the chain. What this does is it will download a zip file of the blockchain and then extract it. And that will make your synchronization go much faster. Would you like to install Sentinel? This is not required. Sentinel is a program that runs to make sure that the Masternode stays up and running, but it's no longer required. Stability is good, so we can say no here. Would you like to set up basic firewall and fail to ban? Yes, this is recommended. Firewall will lock out any ports that are not needed, and fail to ban will limit the number of opportunities somebody has at trying to log into this node. And if they have too many failed login attempts, that IP address they're trying to use will be denied the next time they try and get in. The remainder of the chain will need to be synced right now, so just give this some time until it completes the syncing process. And once the blockchain is synced, you'll get this ending screen here, which shows you that there are a few commands you can use to start, stop, or check the status of the Pyrk daemon service running in the background. And it also informs you that if the server has to reboot, the service will also restart. So you don't have to worry about manually starting your Masternode. It will automatically start up every time you reboot. If we want to just check the status for fun, we can go ahead and type in sudo system control status Pyrk, and that will show us right now that it is active and running. All right, and to get out of that, you just hit Control C. And for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much everything we need to do on the Masternode side. So we can go ahead and minimize this for now. Now that the Masternode software is installed on our VPS, we can go ahead and create a handshake between our wallet and the Masternode. So to do that, we're going to prepare a ProReg TX transaction. And to do this, I'm going to scroll down a little bit on the guide, and there will be a list of different variables that we need to plug into a single command. By the time we're done, the command will basically look like this. Okay, so what I've done is I've already prepared a notepad file that has basically a sample of the information that we need. This is just my own sort of guide for myself, but you may open up a blank text file. It's probably the best way to go. And just make sure you plug in everything that you need. So in our case, the first thing would be protx space register underscore prepare. All right, and then you can hit enter. And according to the guide, the next number that we need is our collateral hash, followed by our collateral index. Okay, and the hash is very easy to get, actually. This is the transaction hash for our collateral address. So we go over here to transactions, and right here where we made the payment to ourselves of the collateral, I can right-click this and then go to show transaction details. And right here, I have my transaction ID, right? So I can click this, copy it, all right? And I'm going to close this down, go back over to our notepad file here, and then just paste that there. All right, so there is our collateral hash, all right? That's followed by a 1. Even though our transaction ID is a 0 for the collateral index, it's going to be a 1 in this particular setup. The next thing we put in is our IP and port. And to get that's really easy, we just go back over here to Volter on our Masternode 01 screen here, and the IP address is right there. So click that and paste the IP address. But then we have to add a colon and then the number 8118. That's the port number that is going to be connecting to the Masternode. All right. Next, we'll go over here on our guide to the following, which is our owner key address. All right. And we've already created this in the first step. Go back to our wallet, click on File, Receiving Address, and see how right here I've got owner Masternode 1. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click this address, copy that, and paste it. Hit Enter. And then what's the next one? Is our operator public key. So this is the BLS public key generated above. We've already done this. So if we go here to the wallet once again, close this down, open up our debug console. Remember we ran this command BLS generate. We have our secret key, which we already put inside of our Masternode. But now we're going to use our public key right here. And that public key is going to allow us to create a handshake between this wallet and our Masternode. So go ahead and drop that in here. Hit Enter. The next thing it's looking for is our voting key address. We also created this already, so we'll open this up again. And then click on File, Receiving Address. And here's our voting address. Go ahead and copy that address. Paste that in. Enter. All right. Now it's looking for our reward percentage. And in our case, this is operator reward. What this is really trying to do is send a certain percentage of the rewards to a different location. And since we're going to be taking 100% of the rewards, we're not going to use this command here. Instead, what we're going to do is just put a 0 there and hit Enter. Because that 0 will tell the blockchain basically send the entire reward to one address. All right, where is that address? The next one here, payout address. All right, so we've already created that. Right here is our payout MN1. All right, so we'll copy that address and paste that there. Now, for all intents and purposes, you could pretty much stop here, but since we have set up a fee address, then what we're going to do is jump over here and also plug in our fee address. So just copy the fee address here and paste that there. All right, so basically we have pro tx register prepare. We've got our transaction hash, a 1. We've got our IP address, our port number. We've got a voting address, or our owner address, I should say. We got our public key to connect to the Masternode. We've got our voter address here, a 0 for the rewards so that we get 100% of the rewards. This is the reward address, so we'll get paid out here. And then this is where the fees will come from whenever we need to send another transaction. Now that we have all of the different parts of the command that we're going to run here together, what we have to do is eliminate any lines. So if we go here at the end of each line, we have to hit delete space. And then what I do is I just hit the end button on the keyboard and go to the end of that line, hit delete space, end, 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 delete space, end. And if I hit home, you can see this, everything is all on one line. That's exactly what we need. So now you can select the whole thing by holding down Shift and then hit End on the keyboard. And you can copy this, just right click, copy. And we're going to paste that command over here in our debug console. All right, so we go right here, right click, paste. And if we go through the whole thing, you see it's all on one line. Everything looks good here. You can inspect it yourself, make sure it's good. All right, and once it is, hit Enter. All right, so that all went through as one line, and it gave us some very important information. All right, first of all, we've got our transaction ID right here. We have our collateral address right there. That was verified. And we've got a sign message right here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and copy the entire output here, just so we have it. All right, so I'm going to right click, copy, and go back over to our notepad file here and then paste that there. All right, this will be for future reference in case we have to close the wallet and reopen it and all that. All right, always good to have information that we're going to reuse. All right, so we're not done yet with the whole setup. All this did was create a registration for us. Now we've got to sign it. So if we go back over here to our guide, all right, now we've got our output as it says here in the guide. Now we have to sign this. All right, and the way we're going to do that is with the command sign message, collateral address, and sign message. All right, and it says up here that you're going to use the private key for the collateral address as specified in collateral address. All right, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the output that we just got from the wallet. All right, this one. All right, so, but we have to use our version, right? So let's go back over here to Pyrk, click on the debug console. We're going to type in sign message, space, grab this collateral address right here. I'm just going to use Control-C to copy it, and then click down here, Control-V to paste it, space. All right, and then the next part would be sign message. All right, so we're going to grab what's in the quotations after it says sign message right there. So back over here to Pyrk, and I'm going to grab this portion of the sign message, right-click, copy, and then paste that there, hit enter. All right, and now that has signed a message, giving me this output. All right, so we're going to go ahead and copy that output too, because we're going to need that for a transaction that we're going to send. All right, let's go ahead and drop that right here. Okay, so that's there for safekeeping. We'll come back to it. Back over here, we got our output. Now we have to submit the signed message. All right, it says right here, you're going to use this command, protx register_submit, the transaction, and the signature. All right, so TX is the serialized transaction previously returned in the TX output field, and then we're going to sign with that new message that we just got. Okay, so this is pretty simple, but close this down. All right, and we're going to go ahead and use, let me copy it real quick, protx register submit. All right, space. I'm going to grab this TX right there. Right click, copy, paste that in, space, and then we're going to grab this signed message. But be careful when you grab this message, make sure it's only the input. Don't grab the icon here. All right, right click, copy, make sure I'm at the end of the line there, and then Control-V, paste, and then hit enter. All right, and notice it sent a transaction, okay? And what this did was it sent some Pyrk out of our fee address in order to sign this transaction. All right, so we can go ahead and push that off to the side there and close this down. And now if we go over here to our transactions, we'll see we sent a payment to ourselves. Everything that we just did, all of the commands that we just typed in, were all designed to create a secure connection between the desktop wallet here and the Masternode. So any rewards that come through because of the Masternode will be securely sent to our full node wallet. And now to verify that our Masternode is in fact running on the network, we can click the Masternodes tab and then put the little checkbox here next to My Masternodes Only. And we'll see we have our IP address here, status enabled. Gives us the block height that we registered and when we should expect our next payment. One other thing that's left to do is to secure this wallet. And this is very important whenever you have, any significant amount of cryptocurrency stored in any wallet, any desktop, is to encrypt it, password protect it. So the way we're going to take care of that is by going here to the settings tab and then clicking on encrypt wallet. And then right here you would type in your new passphrase, repeat that passphrase, and save it. This has been how to set up a Pyrk Masternode. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, visit us at pyrk.org or our Discord server for more immediate attention. Thanks for watching, and happy mining.